I'm interviewing Michelle Moore about family diversity in therapy. How is being sensitive to family diversity important in therapy?
Being sensitive with family diversity is crucial to therapy. It really is. Because different diversity issues are race, class, socioeconomic status, um, culture. Inside culture, you have to deal with traditions and rituals, and they all come together to create a family. So when you have a couple come in or a family come in, you cannot have any assumptions that you know who they are, where they come from, based on what their class, their race, and their culture is, because you don't know the structure inside the family. You could have a um, African American mother who's the mother of three, who's single, come in, and if you naturally assume that she got pregnant at the age of 16 and lives in poverty, then these views translate and the clients can feel it, and then they don't want to come back to therapy, and it becomes more harmful. It's more harmful than good. When in reality, the mother could be recently divorced, of middle class, and has a good job, but the transition from being divorced to being single, or being married to divorce and then being single, was probably hard on her and her children, so there could be adjustment problems. And then inside of those diversity issues, you have whether the parents are married, divorced, single, widow, because the way that you would treat a married couple is completely different from how you would treat a divorced mother, which is completely different from how you would treat a widowed mother, and that's completely different how you would treat a single mother. But if you're not sensitive to these issues, you would view the divorce, the widow, and the single mother all in the same area, when in reality, they're completely different. So that's why it is important to be sensitive, because you just don't know who's coming through the door. And it's important for you to take the client as they are. And by doing that, and by gaining an understanding of what their diversity issues are within their family, it enables you to have a stronger therapeutic bond with the clients, and then they will open up more. And then treatment is more effective.
What would be a worst case scenario?
I think a worst case scenario would be if a person who is of a different ethnicity comes into a session. So let's say you have a Caucasian therapist, and the family that comes to the door is Japanese, and you have no clue what this culture is. And so while you're talking to your clients, you notice that they do not have direct contact with you. So you challenge them, and you make these assumptions thinking that they're meek or weak or subordinate, when in reality, their culture dictates that they don't have direct eye contact with strangers or other people. But if you didn't know that, then you would go down a different route for treatment, which probably would be the wrong form of treatment, because you weren't sensitive to their culture. And then, of course, you have to think of their customs, which one custom is, you don't look at people directly in the eye. And then you have to think about uh, their rituals and their traditions on top of that. And if you don't understand those traditions and rituals, you will not be able to understand the family in general. And these are all diverse issues when it comes to family. I mean, if you don't understand their culture, how are you able to help them? So that would be a worst case scenario, not understanding a person's culture and how it affects them, and how it influences the presenting problem, and how that problem is influencing the family dynamics and the interactions of that family. So
And how would you address diversity issues a family could bring to session?
um, I think first and foremost, I would probably ask them about their family life, if they're widowed, divorced, married, single, and then I would have them explain to me their culture, if it's, a different ethnicity or culture than me. Then I would have them define what aspects that are important, like the traditions and rituals of their family. And then from there, I would collaborate with them to figure out a good treatment and a good goal for the presenting problem that they come in. I would also ask them each to define their presenting problem. So if there's a family of 4, I would ask each member of the family to define their presenting problem. And then on top of that, if let's say it's the parents are immigrants and the children are first generation American, I would ask them how different it is to go from their original culture into a dominant culture, and then try to teach their children who are being raised in this different culture how to keep them within their sense of identity. Because in reality, even though there's race, ethnicity is a completely different story. So I would try to get each family member to explain to me how they fit into the family, what they view their culture is, how that they would define their presenting problems, how the presenting problems are correlate with the diversity of the family. And then from there, I would help them figure out goals and then start treatment. And then throughout the process, I would make sure that if I had a question, I would ask them a question if I got stuck, or if it came up that some other diversity came up that I couldn't understand, or I would need a better explanation, because in reality, the way I view the world and the way they view the world is completely different. And because they're coming into treatment, they are the experts of their own world. So I would try to, throughout the sessions, try to, double check to make sure that we're on the same page, because the worst thing that could happen is us being on the wrong page. And that's how I would deal with diversity in session.